All right, everybody, welcome into Resist TV. I am joined by a special guest today, Mirriam Seddiq, who is an immigration attorney in the metro area, and she has spent the last several days since Saturday. Today is Wednesday. She spent the last several days at Dulles International Airport. She is joining us now on the phone. Mirriam, thanks for joining me today. Wanted to get a chance to talk to you about a lot of topics based on your expertise and your background and the work that you're doing at Dulles alongside of several others. So Mirriam, I guess first off, if you could just really set the scene for us at Dulles Airport and what you've seen over the last several days.
Well, hi, thank you so much for having me on your show. So as your viewers and listeners must probably know that on Friday evening, Donald Trump signed an executive order, not affectionately called the Muslim ban. So Saturday night, about 100 lawyers gathered at Dulles Airport to see how we could help. At that point, the call had come out from IRAP, which is the Refugee Assistance Program. That sort of created this organic, a truly grassroots movement that we now call Dulles Justice Coalition. And each and every day we have had lawyers on the ground, as well as lawyers who are working, I guess, behind the scenes. You know, a lot of the litigation that you're seeing that's coming out of this executive order is by lawyers who are part of this coalition. We have people working on congressional pieces who have contacts. We've had congressmen come and try to get access. A lot of people probably know that one of the issues we're having is that Customs and Border Patrol is not giving us any information as to who has been detained, who has been sent back, et cetera, et cetera. So it was a whirlwind of activities Saturday and Sunday. It's a little bit quieter at the airport right now, also because they're not letting people come into the country. They're being denied boarding at airports across the world. But we're all still there. So this is the first day since Saturday I haven't been at the airport.
So Mirriam, the way that we found you was you were quoted in an article in The Atlantic, which basically, I mean, there's many of you. Like you said, there's more than 100 attorneys out at Dulles, and you've descended there to offer these free legal services to those that need them. And so let me first say thank you for fighting that good fight. What I should also do is backtrack for a moment. You mentioned this, and we're seeing here now on our screen some of the protests and people that are gathering as well, that are, preaching and protesting, no hate, no fear.
We call them supporters.
Right.
We call them supporters.
Right.
Because all they do is send out messages of love and support to people who are coming off the planes and to all of us who are volunteering. And I also want to say we have an army of 700 volunteers just at Dulles.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So Mirriam, to backtrack a moment, and you set the scene for us a little bit, I just want to read, and share something from the Telegraph today that I read that I think really breaks down the most basic element of this issue, and then you and I can really get into it. So for those that don't know, an executive order, it's an official statement from the president which tells government agencies how to use their resources, right? And so in this case, Mr. Trump's quote-unquote, and I'm reading from the Telegraph here, his quote-unquote Muslim ban is the order that bars citizens of 7 Muslim-majority countries from entering the U.S. for a period of 90 days. It suspends the United States refugee system for a period of 120 days. Mr. Trump says his extreme vetting system will help keep radical Islamic terrorists out of the United States. So, Mirriam, we've talked about, the people being affected at Dulles, but you're the boots on the ground there, and you've been working hand in hand with some of these families and some of these people. What are some of the stories? What are some of the real families being affected by this? And in part, I ask you that because there's people to this day and will continue to deny that this is even happening. And so to speak to some...
I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh out loud at that. But.
I'm not even going to get to the point yet where I'm going to ask you if it is truly a Muslim ban. I'll get to that in a moment. But,
and we'll talk about what we just heard is going to be happening soon, so that they can take some of the edge off of the idea that this is a Muslim ban.
Right. So
phase 2 of this that's coming.
So staying with phase 1, first of all, talk to me about the actual people that you're working with, the families, those affected by this. If you could just share some of the reality of this, because some people may just see this as a political topic, and not that it necessarily affects real people, real human beings. If you could just share some of that.
So, on Saturday, the order that Donald Trump signed also affected people who had green cards. It said, immigrant and non-immigrant visas. And immigrant and non-immigrant. It wasn't specified to visas because immigrants have green cards. They don't have visas. So on Saturday, there were individuals who actually were put on planes and sent back to their countries of origin who were, in fact, green card holders. We at Dulles, the people there, are currently working on a complaint, a lawsuit that is directly related to two Yemeni brothers who were sent back before the stay was issued, the ACLU stay out of New York, and forced to give up their green cards.
Wow.
So, they're back in Yemen. I believe right now CARE Coalition is working on their lawsuit along with Mayor Brown, which is a law firm that is doing pro bono services, on their particular petition. I know of several families who have, at this point, the issue is people who are stranded abroad. So, for example, there's an Iranian couple who lives in Sterling, Virginia, and their parents, her parents are in Amsterdam. They were able to get on a plane from Tehran and get to Amsterdam, and then they were denied boarding by KLM in Amsterdam. And that's been since the 28th. Now, immigration law is incredibly complex. So they actually have immigrant visas. Their visas were approved to come here as green card holders. They have a packet of information in hand, and basically what happens is once you enter the United States, you get stamped, they give you your green card, and then you become a legal permanent resident. That packet is only good for a certain period of time. And in many people's cases, people who have been denied entry, that packet is going to expire before the 90-day ban. So this talk that, it's only for 90 days is insane.
Right. It's not a temporary ban.
As well are about to expire.
Right. It's not really a temporary ban, and I'm hearing that because what you're saying is this is an incredibly lengthy process. And so essentially when they say it's temporary and your paperwork expires, you have to start all over again, and really at this point starting over again is impossible, right? So let me just speak to that for a moment. I want to just say, and read again from the Telegraph here. This is important, I think, for educational purposes for people that don't understand the intricacies of this. The order itself, this executive order, it does not name the countries whose citizens are banned from entering the United States. Instead, it refers to a statute which applies to 7 Muslim-majority nations that are Syria, Iran, Sudan, Libya, Somalia, Yemen, and Iraq, with dual nationals included in that ban. Now, certain visa categories, such as those for diplomats, are exempt. And there have also been reports of legal U.S. residents known as green card holders, as you mentioned, the lawsuit that you have waged alongside of other lawyers, that they're being turned away from U.S. inbound flights. One last thing I want to mention on this, because people are calling this hysteria, and then there's the other side that are calling this protective. Let me just say that the green cards are not mentioned explicitly in the executive order, again, reading from the Telegraph. And oddly, this is the most important part, the ban does not apply to the nationalities of those who carried out the 9/11 attacks, such as Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Egypt. So essentially, what we're doing here as a country is punishing the good people for the bad. And so, Mirriam, what I wanted to ask you, and you're in a unique position, which is part of why I wanted to talk to you. A, you understand the law, but B, from reading another article from August from The Atlantic, you are an active participant in a American Muslim women's group. So I assume you yourself are Muslim, and you're quoted here in this article saying that I never really felt like I was the quote-unquote other until now, and it's a strange realization to have, but it's what motivated me to do this, and talking about building this American Muslim Women's Society.
Right.
There are so many misconceptions about Muslim women. I wanted to help counter that narrative. So I'll ask you this both professionally and also personally. There are people saying that this is not a ban on Muslims. I know how I feel about that. This is not a show about me. This is a show asking the experts, both personally and professionally, in your opinion, is this a ban on Muslims?
In my opinion, it is a ban on Muslims. I think that Donald Trump and his cohort, regardless of what we think about him, if you voted for him, if you didn't, I think maybe many people didn't believe that he actually meant this, that he was going to do this, but it is actually a ban. I mean, no matter what they say, and like I said, I think the next step is probably going to try to include some countries that are not Muslim-majority countries to sort of, kind of go forward with this whole, it's not a Muslim ban, for example. Venezuela is apparently on the list coming out in Colombia.
Wow.
So, but I think that's just sleight of hand, right? I don't believe that it makes it any less of a Muslim ban to include other people in addition to Muslims. Maybe it does. But Rudy Giuliani said this was a fig leaf to a Muslim ban if he had come to him and said, I want to have a Muslim ban.
Right.
He's calling it a Muslim ban, this ban. He's calling it that himself. He has in the executive order specified that Christians from these countries should be given priority. So forget about what we all think personally. I mean, he has said it. That's what he said. Let's also be very, very clear about the people who are not being allowed to come in. Okay, let's make it clear. These are not people who have zero rights. These are not people who have not had visas adjudicated yet or have been denied visas, right? So if I want to apply for, say, my husband's abroad, I'm a U.S. citizen, and they say, no, he can't come, the Supreme Court has basically said, excuse my French, tough shit, you're out of luck.
Right.
You, even as a U.S. citizen, don't have a right to bring that person here, okay? These are people who have been vetted, and I implore anybody to maybe help, go someplace and look at these immigrant petitions, see how extensive they are, see how long they take. Green card holders, for example, have to supply fingerprints and police clearance checks from every country they've ever lived in. So these are not people that we have deemed unworthy or, as Donald Trump has said, bad dudes.
Right.
These are people that we have determined to be good people that we want to come into this country. Also, let's be clear, there are H-1B holders. There are Google employees who are not being allowed to come back in. There are doctors who are not being allowed to come back in. There are students who are not being allowed to come back in. So this ban is not just a ban for bad guys who maybe wanted to come in,
right?
From these Muslim countries.
So
personally, I can speak to the Atlantic article, and I actually founded the American Muslim Women Political Action Committee. It's the only political action committee for Muslim women. And on Friday evening, and I think a lot of American Muslims felt this way from Friday to Saturday before I got involved, most of us were more than stunned that our country hated us. I know that immigrants, a lot of them felt the same way as well. We spent a lot of time in tears, thinking, how could it be possible that our country hates us? Look, I'm a criminal defense lawyer. My job is in the Sixth Amendment. It's actually there. It's the only job in the Bill of Rights. So to fight for the Constitution and to defend it every single day for at least the past 20 years, and then to have Donald Trump say, you can't, your kind can't be here, is heartbreaking.
I think what's more striking, and people often say to those of us who believe a certain way that get over it, you lost. And for me personally, this is not about the election. This is about what's happened.
No, it's not.
This is about what's happened since.
Right.
And what I've also seen in the wake of this, in my opinion, this hate that's being peddled and pushed is actually people coming together. I've found it awesome to see that. Unfortunately, this is what it's taken, and we've seen these images that we've been showing on our screen here of people at the airports supporting other Americans, people of different walks of life, Jews and Arabs coming together, things that you thought you'd never see in your lifetime, and it's frankly, it's amazing from that perspective, and downright pathetic in another perspective. Let me get to one last topic before we let you go here. So I want to harken back to this Telegraph article. It was really informative, and you should check it out. The ban, it says, it completely suspends the United States Syrian refugee program, which accepted 12,486 Syrians in 2016. So let me just pause for a moment. to talk about the folks that believe that we are opening the floodgates to Syria. 12,500 people in 2016 from Syria is a drop in the bucket. Nonetheless, the article points out that it also gives preference to accepting Christian refugees from the Middle East over Muslims, and it reduces the cap on the total number of refugees allowed to enter the U.S. in 2017 from 110,000 to 50,000. So we're talking about 50,000 people. That's from Syria, at least. So, the fact that there are those on the other side of this and well aware of their concerns, and let me not brush those off, but 50,000 people, when you do the math, is a drop in the bucket. But so let me get back to one thing about the vetting, because we talked about the process of getting here, and I want to ask you about our Americans' rights, the ones that are being turned away. Not even the people that are applying to be here, but the actual Americans who are being turned away. Let me ask you first, you talked about vetting. Now we're going to have this extreme vetting. What does that mean, being that most of us who understand the immigration process already know it to be extreme?
I have no idea.
Right.
I literally have no, here's the thing. It takes so long already. I invite everyone to go to the visa bulletin and look at the date, the priority date that people at USCIS are working on right now. You are literally waiting 10 years for a visa from certain countries.
Right.
10 years. And he wants to have extreme vetting. Extreme vetting. The whole goal is to close our borders.
Correct.
That's it. There's nothing else that matters right now. And to the people who say we lost, meaning those of us who maybe voted, for Hillary Clinton or third party, the fact is that right now the only losers are, I don't know, maybe 300 million plus Americans.
Sure.
I mean, we lose as a country.
I agree.
That's the losers.
So Mirriam, before I let you go, I think it's important for people to understand their rights. I think that the entire topic that's what we've discussed essentially, and the sleight of hand, as you called it, is an attempt to disorient people and not have them understand what their rights are. And I think in that confusion, you have people, God bless the police and those who are trying to enforce these laws too. They don't even understand what they're supposed to be enforcing and what they're supposed to be doing. And so essentially, from the other side of it, someone who is a United States citizen that can't get here, what are their rights? How do they fight this?
Well, let's be clear. United States citizens are supposed to be allowed to. This does not impact U.S. citizens. It impacts green card holders,
right?
Which are one step away from. Although I'm going to Mexico on Thursday, I may not be back on Monday. Who knows?
Right.
So everyone just keep a lookout for me on Monday to make sure I get back into the country. But we have at Dulles Justice, the Dulles Justice Coalition, we do have a website now. It's www.dullesjustice.org. We have a Twitter handle. It is also Dulles Justice. On there are fact sheets in several languages, know your rights in several languages, including Arabic and Farsi, for people to take a look at. It is very important that people know that there are attorneys stationed at every airport, every international airport across the country, so that if they are having difficulty, to contact their loved ones who may be on the ground outside of those airports waiting for them. Find those lawyers. Most of us have a table or a booth. We're holding signs. You can find an attorney and tell them that this is happening. Make sure you check in with them, and they will tell you exactly what to do. They will track your case. If you need a habeas petition, for example, there are people who are ready to do that. I mean, this isn't just at Dulles. This isn't just at JFK. This is a coordinated, nationwide, and now global effort. There are attorneys across the world who are involved in this effort, so everyone should know they are not alone, and we're not going to give up this fight.
And what an amazing thing if, as I mentioned earlier, out of such hate and mistreatment, something so amazing to see so many people coming together for the greater good, and I think that's the only thing that we can take away from this that might be a good thing.
If I may, I do want to speak to that for a second. So I have to say that we are actually literally fueled by, and also just sort of figuratively fueled by, the support from the public. we are being fed 3 times a day. We have more Starbucks gift cards that you could shake a stick at. Somebody paid for our parking yesterday at the airport because, airport parking is expensive.
Wow.
Somebody donated MiFi and subscriptions
Wow.
so that we would have secure Wi-Fi. And just the emails and the texts and the tweets of support, really, they mean the world to everybody who is on the ground at all of these airports around the world, and to us at Dulles Justice Coalition. So we thank you.
Thank you for your hard work, Mirriam. Keep it up. Keep fighting the good fight. www.dullisjustice.org. We'll have more on Resist TV in just a moment, and you can find out more about how to contact us right here on your screen. Resist TV on Facebook, @ResistTV on Twitter, and ResistTVmedia@gmail.com.